Hello everyone, this is our current final prototype version of Horizon Exodus, the cooperative PvE war game that we've been working on. So, would you like to start?
Yeah, so first we started our insertion phase already. We're gonna finish it off right now. We're gonna roll a die to see who goes first. Whoever gets the highest gets to choose wherever they're going. So I rolled a 4.
I rolled a 2. So you get to decide whether or not you want to place the extraction point on the map, or if you'd like to go first when we start the rounds.
Yeah. If I choose to put my extraction point, which I am, I do not get to go first. My blades go first. So I'm gonna decide to put my extraction point probably like upper right kind of area of the board.
And major objectives need to be placed not adjacent to the extraction point. So we're going to place one there. We're going to place one over here for 4 and for 2. The number on top of the major objectives is indicating the amount of interactions you need to complete to finish it off. The 6 on the extraction point doesn't mean anything. That's just our indicator for where it is. So each player has a set of 4 cards indicating each of their squad members. The little dice we have on top is just a counter to keep track of their health, so we don't forget. I am purple, Nida is green.
Yeah.
So, now that the extraction point and the major objectives are placed, since Nida placed the extraction point, I get to choose where I want to place my squad first. So, I'm going to choose to put my squad. I'm going to choose to put them here. The trade-off of placing down your squad is that it eliminates all the enemies and loot that would currently exist on that tile. So it basically turns it into just your placement point and not a place where enemies or loot can be found. Now that I've placed my squad, and I can place hers.
Yeah, my strat is a little different. I try to go near the extraction point. However, all of the defense values around the extraction point are low anyway, so I'm just gonna put myself probably like in the middle of the main objectives as a defense value of 2, and it's kind of near the extraction point.
All right. Now that we have our squads placed down, we can begin to play the game. So, I'm going to be going first for the rest of the game, since I placed the extraction point. So, I'm going to begin by taking into account that I have 4 minor actions that I can do for each of my squad members, and 1 major action. The major action includes stuff like moving my squad to a new hex. Adjacently, you can only move 1 hex at the beginning of the game, as well as actions such as trying to hide yourself and disengage from enemies that can see you, and other such stuff. We'll get to that later. So, I don't want to rush into combat willy-nilly, so I'm going to start by doing a scout action with my technician. So I'm going to turn my technician card to indicate that I've completed their minor action. I'm going to scout out a hex. So to scout out a hex, you basically place down all the enemies and loot that would be on it. Now unfortunately, I wish I had a small baggie to make this a lot simpler, but I'm just going to shake up the types of enemies we have in my hands and place them down. So I'm going to scout out this hex for 1 enemy, and then 2 loot. Our loot tiles are all the same right now. So, since there's 1 enemy on the hex, 2 loot, and a 2 defense value, that indicates everything. The type of enemy is determined by the little indicator on the top of their marker. So this is specifically indicating that this is a scout infantry unit. So a little bit tougher than a normal infantry unit, which has an indicator that looks a little bit like this. But it has a special ability where if you don't attack it, it can find you. So you gotta be careful when you're around them. So that's only the first minor action of my turn. I'm going to spend the next minor action on my heavy gunner. I'm going to use them to attack that light infantry unit, or I'm going to use them to attack that scout infantry unit. So, to attack, I look at the amount of dice that my squad member can attack with. The heavy gunner has a base attack of 3 dice. And I'm going to look at the range, the defense value, and the type of enemy I'm attacking. So, we have a nice little list here. On a completely finished production product, it'd be nice to have a table with all the enemies so you can quickly look over and find out the exact defense value you need to calculate. But for this, Scout Infantry have a base armor value of 3, combined with a hex defense of 2 and a range of 1 hex. So that would mean they have a defense value of 6. To destroy the Scout Infantry unit, I need to roll higher than a 6 with these 3 dice. And if I do, he's destroyed. Enemies don't have intrinsic health values. To destroy them, all you need to do is exceed their armor value. I always roll a die off the table.
You already rolled a 10 though, so you already beat him.
And just for fun.
16.
So, in case you're wondering why I rolled a 16 against a 6, some enemies have really high defense values, so you need to be careful. Scout Infantry are pretty weak though, so it's not too hard to take them out. So, destroying a Scout Infantry unit would grant me 200 points. So, I start with 200. Next, I'm going to use my major action. So, at any point over the course of your turn, in between your minor actions, you can use your major action. It doesn't need to be in the beginning or the end. So I'm going to use my major action to move onto this hex. And I'm going to use my infiltrator to loot one of the loot indicators. Now, on another completely finished production product, we'd have lots of loot indicators that would have either a symbol for a point card or an action augment card. But for this, I'm just going to decide which I want to choose intrinsically. So I'm going to decide to draw, to keep it simple, I'm going to draw a point card. So I drew a 100 point card. I hold on to that and I increase my point value to 300. And I'm going to then use my squad leader to loot the other card. To loot the other loot token on this. Take that, put that there. I'm going to instead spend that loot to draw an action augment card. So I drew an orange one. So orange ones are equipment. So using this, I can equip it to any squad member, and once I equip it, it stays on them, and I can de-equip cards and re-equip cards at the beginning of my next turn. So I'm going to equip the machine gun on equip them on my infiltrator. So now, when I roll attacks with them, they would have 3 die, just like my heavy machine gunner. So now that I've completed all of my minor actions and my major action, that would turn my turn order over to Nida.
Alright, so now I'm going to start my turn. I'm gonna do this a little differently than Michael did it. I was gonna scout, but I think I'm just gonna just do it. So I'm gonna use my major action at first, and I'm gonna move tiles to this tile, which is between the extraction point and one of the major points. Right now, Michael is placing little green squares on the tiles, and these indicate the tiles that we visited already.
Yep, just so we don't forget.
Yeah. So right now, I'm going to roll randomly for the enemies that are on this tile. Since I moved, I automatically have to
just shake it off.
Yeah, I automatically have to roll for what type of enemies are on the tile since I visited the tile.
Don't forget the scat infantry in it.
Yeah.
And drop one too. This is why a baggie would be nice.
Yeah. All right.
So another scout infantry and a scout walker.
And a scout walker. So a scout walker is a medium form of enemy. It's right above a scout infantry. It has a higher armor value and an attack value, but we're not up to the attack value stage yet. So
tokens as well.
Right now, I am going to use my. Let's see. I think I'm going to use my scout to attack. Just because I didn't use my scout and I'm not going to use their special ability this turn, so I'm only able to roll 2 die for my scout, and I'm going to attack the scout walker. Right now, the Scout Walker has a defense value of 6 because of the hex tile and their base. So I need to roll above a 6 with these two guys.
When you're attacking a unit that's occupying the same hex as you, you disregard range. So it's a 0 for range, a 1 for the defense, and a 5 intrinsic defense of the Scout Walker for a 6, like 9 said.
Yeah. I rolled a 6. So now,
When you meet the defense value of an enemy, you don't destroy it. You have to exceed it to properly destroy the enemy.
yeah, it's at 0, but it'll still be able to attack me at the end of this turn. So
Unless you use the different.
Unless I use, yeah, so that's what I'm about to do. So now I'm going to use my medic, since I'm pretty sure I can just kill both of these off and just attack again. Again, to die. I'm going to probably use it for all these cards, so I'll just roll 3 times and then just kill off all these enemies really quick. I rolled a 5. I killed off the Scout Walker. So the Scout Walker is done. And then now I'm just rolling for the Scout Infantry, and I already killed it. I rolled a 7. That's above a 6.
Nice.
So now I am going to...
First off, you need to make sure you calculate the amount of points you just got for killing those 2 guys.
I know. So 200 for the Scout Infantry, and then 300 for the Scout Walker.
Would be 500 points.
And then now I still have an ability left for my squad leader because I killed off all the enemies. So I'm going to loot. I'm going to use one of the tokens to loot, and I'm going to take a point bonus, which is plus 200.
Oh, nice. Shooting ahead.
Yeah. And with that, my turn is done. I did all my minor actions. I did my major actions.
All right. Now, if there were still enemies left on the board, we would do the enemy's turn for them attacking us. But we were able to completely sweep away all the enemies already. So we're all good on enemies right now. So that would mean it would rotate back over to being my turn once again. So I'd flip all my cards back over to indicate that they can commit actions again, and then it would proceed to the next turn order. Now, we're going to skip ahead a little bit because we don't want to spend all class going through an entire game. They do go relatively fast, but I don't think we have enough time to show you the entire playthrough. So just to show that we would go on to the next turn, we'd be on turn 9 of 10. So there's a few, so I'm going to skip ahead to show like major mechanics that I want to properly explain. So say that I scouted out this next hex, holding the major objective, and I'm just going to pre-place those enemies down for explanation purposes. And I was not able to destroy any of them on the next turn. Nida would also do her turn to reveal enemies and do her actions as we previously shown, but then it would go to the enemy's turn to show how they would attack, how they would strike back against us. So, to understand how enemies detect you when, let's find the proper way to word this. So, it can get kind of confusing if trying to figure out which enemies are attacking which players since they're not being controlled, and you need to determine that on a player-to-player basis. So we developed a system to make it as simple as possible. So when an enemy's turn begins, they will firstly attack the last group that attacked them. So say that I attacked these guys. Since I was the last group to attack them, they know where I am, and they would attack back against me once the enemy's turn started. If they did not know where I was, they don't have a scouting unit to find out where I am, so they would not be able to attack anybody. Scouting units were the previously shown Scout Infantry and Scout Walkers. If they don't know where someone is already, they can search around nearby hexes to find you. But they aren't currently there, so I don't have to worry about that. But I do have to worry about the fact that since I attacked them first, they know where I am and they're going to attack back against me. So, calculating enemy attacks are pretty much just as simple as calculating attacks against enemies. Enemies have a dice value to roll how many dice they have per attack, and then you calculate the defense values of your characters with your intrinsic defense value on each of your cards, and the armor value of the hex you're on, and the range. So, also when you're determining which member is being attacked, you would roll a d4 die, but I don't have a d4 die on me right now, so I'm going to roll a d6 to go through 1, 2, 3, and 4, depending on the placement of your squad members in your deck. So to start, the tank is going to attack my squad right here. Oh, thank you. That solves so many problems. All right, so to start, this tank is going to attack my squad for 3 die, since tanks have an attack value of 3. I'm always rolling high when I'm rolling for the enemies. Oh boy. All right,
So a
so
14.
yeah. Oh no. So the tank is going to attack my squad. It rolled a 14. Now I'm going to roll a d4 to see who specifically it attacked. So I rolled a 2. So that would be against my technician. So the defense value my technician has is a 2 plus 1 for 3 plus 4 is a 7. So I don't think he's surviving this. I think he's going to get killed. So 7 would remove 7 points from the roll, but that would still leave it as a 7 as well. So, and my technician has a health value of 4. That means that the attack has completely wiped out my technician and that they would be killed. This is why you need to be careful around tanks. Tanks are incredibly dangerous and you don't want to attack them willy-nilly. You need to be careful. That would mean that my squad, my technician would be killed in action, flip over his card to indicate he's KIA, and take him off the map and put him down there. And I would roll the attacks for the rest of the infantry. Normal light infantry have an attack value of 1. So just a 1, that would not break the armor of any character on my team. And a 6. Carefully again. The 3. Attacking the infiltrator, but since the infiltrator has an armor value of 3, they wouldn't take any damage. Now, if a squad member takes damage and isn't automatically killed, you would move the number on the die down to show that they've taken damage until it reached 0. All right. Now, do you want to talk
Just
about the
some
extraction? Or
Yeah. Basically, you can, as long as you're on the extraction point tile, by the end of the 10th turn,
Yep.
you automatically extract. However, you can extract before the 10 turns. You just have to announce by the end of your turn and after the enemies do their attack that you are extracting on that point and that turn, and you take your squad off of the game board to represent that you've extracted, and you take the extraction point off of the board.
Yep.
And the last player that's left isn't allowed to extract, but they are able to gain more points in enemies since the extraction point is gone.
Yeah. So
For the time being, for the prototype.
Yeah.
We want the extraction point to stay. We want to include more players. It's just, right now, with 1 extraction point in a 2-player game, it's just easier for point values.
yeah. So by end of the last turn kind of means that by the end of the enemy's turn on turn 10.
Yeah.
That is the end of the game. Games have set term limits right now for the amount of players. A 2-player game has a 10-turn limit, a 3-player game has a 12-turn limit, and a 4-player game has a 15-turn limit. Also, we recommend making the board bigger depending on how many players you have, up to the amount that you feel that the players are comfortable with. So, now that we've explained extraction points, I can also explain major objectives. So these would usually come to play before extraction points. So major objectives are indicated by the little die on the map. So say that I'm able to effectively kill all the enemies on that hex and move into it. I can now start interacting with the major objective. So major objectives, to complete a major objective, you need to perform interact minor actions on a major objective hex. So currently the difficulty of the major objective we've chosen, we have written down the rules. This indicates 2 interactions you need to complete. The interactions on this would be a d4. So to do an interact, you roll a d6, and if you meet or beat the roll that you need to succeed on, then you would reduce it by 1. until reaching 0, and then you would complete it and get the amount of points. So major objectives will give you large amounts of points, so it's recommended that you go for them to get the most points possible. So I believe that is everything. You think we're missing anything, Ida?
I won. That's what we're missing. I did win.
Well, we didn't play the whole game. Oh, God.
But yeah, that's the main mechanics. I think we're good.
Awesome.